BMRforum.com and BMRodds.com. What is going on, boys? What is going on? Welcome back to episode number 76 of The Lobby. Starting off, the man with the correct shirt on this week, Mr. Donnie Rice.
Mm.
I like the shirt.
Look, feeling good. Eagles 1-0. Nice win over the Packers last Friday night. Next game they play is Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons. Looking forward to that. But I loved it. Week 1 in football. Thoroughly enjoyed Thursday, Friday, Sunday night, Monday. Fantastic stuff. And all of a sudden, it starts again tomorrow with another great football game. Oh, it is nice to be in football season, boys.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on, for some reason this week he looks very young. I don't know whether it's the shave, whether it's the hair. He looks like he's 15. We know he's not. Mr. Sam's in charge. What's up, Sammy?
Yeah, I decided to get rid of the Sammy stash. I've been going strong for like 6 months, so just shaved. I'm going to go back to the goatee look, so it'll be back next week. As
Okay,
far as the
okay.
hair goes, I had to, go back to last week, and I put my hair down just to appease to you
Thank you. I
with
appreciate
the
that.
bowl cut look. So I didn't want to do the comb
Fantastic.
over. I had to go the bowl cut. So you should be happy now. And the Cowboys
Right.
starting off 1-0. Got a nice matchup this week against home New Orleans. Should be a high
Yeah.
scoring affair, but we'll get into that.
That we definitely will. But let's start the show, guys. It is September 11th today. So thinking back, I was probably maybe 12, 13 at the time. I was in school, and I don't remember the teachers like talking about it or anything, when the planes hit. Um, so my memories of it are very vivid. I remember, reading the news and then, watching the news when I came home from school and, the horrible tragedies that took place, that day. Donnie, let's start with you. I mean, where were you on that day, and what do you recall?
Yeah, just like background, like I'm a South Jersey kid, but I went to school in North Jersey for college at William Patterson, which is, off in the horizon. You could see the New York City skyline, which included the Twin Towers. I was there from 96 to 99. So every day I walked out of my dorm room, you looked over to the left, and there were the Twin Towers, sort of a part of my life the entire way through. Moved home, obviously, after college. And it was one of those days where I was working in the finance field as a mortgage consultant. My hours were West Coast hours because I mainly dealt in California, Oregon, Arizona, Nevada, those type of areas. So I didn't have to get into the office till 2 o'clock, and my shift usually ran till 10:30 at night. So that Monday night, I got off late, hit the gym, one of those 24-hour gyms, watched a little Monday Night Football, went home, fell asleep. And I typically never woke up until, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock. And I did the same thing because I just moved out. Moved back home. So I was living with my mother and my stepfather. They were already gone out of the house, so nobody really to wake me up and say, "Hey, look at the TV." So I get up, doing my
Right.
normal routine, check the computer, and I remember like seeing like the images on like way back, like AOL. I'm like, is this like April Fools? Like, I don't even understand what I'm comprehending. Is it one of those things where they, the doomsday scenario? What happens if this happens? Not knowing that until I turned on the TV, what had actually happened. And it was really stunning. Got ready for work, went into work that day, worked at a big company, showed up for work. They sent me home, just like the rest of the company was closed that day. Weren't sure if they're going to open up even the next day. But I just remember driving into work, which usually would take me about maybe 25 to 30 minutes. And I'm usually listening to sports talk radio. But every single channel, sports talk, was getting the NBC, CBS, ABC feeds where they were just going right to their news desk here. And it was absolutely surreal where you'd look up in the sky, there's no planes out there. And it was a beautiful day on the East Coast on 9/11. And what a tragedy it was. But it feels like every time we get to like September 11th, 9/11, it's such a stark date in your mind that it hits you the minute you realize it's 9/11. And the same thing I've been doing for the past 23 years. At night, tonight, I'll be watching a ton of documentaries once again on 9/11 because they'll run on multiple channels. But I just remember those images and saying, like, this has to be fake. It can't be real. Until I turned on the TV and it's like, oh my goodness, this actually happened.
Thank you, Donnie. Sammy, over to you.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm a couple years younger than you, maybe a year younger. I was
Yes.
11 years old. I was in fifth grade. Keep in mind that this is 2001. There's no social media. Cell
No
phones are
cell phones,
slowly
right?
becoming a
Exactly.
thing. But anyone with a cell phone there was no internet. It was, very little texting
Technology
was
and things
mainly
were
call
very, very
over.
low tech back then.
you
Yep.
know, I just, I look back to like when Kobe Bryant died. I didn't leave social media for 9 hours that day. I was
Right.
glued to everything that I could see, every
Updates and
opinion,
tweets
every
and
update,
everything
every
else.
article, everything. And this was kind of the same on 9/11, except the most coverage that you could get 23 years ago. I was in 5th grade. So again, there was a small conversation, but we didn't really understand it as kids. The
Right.
adults were a little bit more distraught, but they can't display that to the kids at school.
Exactly.
So I think school was kind of business up until the end of the day, and then you got home, your parents kind of explained a little bit to you, but definitely as I grew up and YouTube and more videos and more articles and
You understood it
conspiracy
more.
theories
Same with me.
you definitely understand it. And like Donnie said, there's so much documentaries now, with the third tower going down and
Right.
everything onto it, but it's definitely a somber day. I have gone to the World Trade Center exhibit down in New York City, and it's just a humbling experience. It's quiet. If you've ever been there, it's one of those where, it's not like you're taking pictures, you're not making
No.
videos, you're just
No.
in the moment. It's just sad to be around that memorial. But it's definitely something, if you're in the Northeast, if you're in New York City, you should go and see that
Go.
memorial.
Of course. Thank you both. But moving on, guys. Let's jump right into it, Sammy. Let's talk some tennis. I know we got the U.S. Open contest, winners to discuss, and then tennis itself. How's the tennis thread looking? What do you got?
Yeah, tennis is going good. We're right around the 60 unit mark to end the U.S. Open. The winners of the Australian Open were the same winners for the U.S. Open. You had Sabalenka on the women's side and Yannick Sinner on the men's side.
Were
The
you
ratings
surprised
just
about
came
that,
out.
or did you think it was going to be different?
No, for Sabalenka, I had a future on her, so I won a good future on her at plus 250. I had $500 to win 1250, so that was a good
Nice.
future.
Very nice.
In reference to the ratings, though, surprisingly, they were down, even though you had 4 Americans in the semifinals and 2 Americans in the finals, one in the women, one in the men. Unfortunately, both of them lost, but the ratings were pretty far down. I know it's tough. The semifinals were on Thursday Night Football. The finals were on Football Sunday for the men's side, so it's definitely always tough to compete with NFL, which had a record high ratings for week 1. But great matches, from a tennis standpoint. I had tennis on, I had Red Zone on, I had the Cowboys on. So I have 3 screens
Very
going,
nice.
but obviously for the non-big tennis fans, they might not be watching. But also shout out to Big J. He won the U.S. Open $200 contest. I was also texting him pretty much all afternoon on Saturday. He had Sabalenka futures as well. So both of us won on Sabalenka. He won the contest. So it was good for all the guys following in the tennis thread. It was good for a couple of the main core guys that are daily betting it. And then this week, it's pretty slow. Couple small women's events, Davis Cup in the men's, and then it comes back into full force next week.
All righty, awesome. Thank you for the update, Sammy. And how's the tennis threat looking?
Yeah,
What's
I don't have the record pulled up in front of me, but I
Okay.
know I'm flirting around 59, 60 units. Pretty
Very
much the
nice.
same I've been in for the last couple weeks.
Very, very, very nice. Speaking of contests, let's jump into it real quick. And a big shout out and a big thank you to Wags, Wager All Sports, for running this Pick the Dog contest, this week. And, it's interesting with this Pick the Dog contest because, you can have a 2-2 record. Like, let's go through these top 2 or 3 people on top, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. Costa Milana is 2-2, but he's actually leading the contest because he's has enough profits. He's $267 up in his profits. Whereas Big J, shout out to Big J, he's 3-1 in second place because he is only at $265 in profit. So it's kind of interesting how that plays out, where you can go 3-1 in a contest like this, Donnie, but you're not going to be on top.
Yeah, that's the way you got to do it. Like if you're going to take plus money, that's the way it's going to equal out. Some people can even probably go 4-0 and still get beat if another guy is 3-1 or even 2-2, just depending on how high those odds were. What did the guy take out there, Sammy? Did he actually take like NIU? Like who did he take? Where'd that money
He
come
was
from?
the only one to take New England on the money line. So in reference to this, it's 44 plays, but it's 22 on the spread and 22 on the money line. So you have to be careful as far as what you're betting spread.
You got to pick and choose. Yeah.
And also you can't double bet. So you can't bet New England plus the points and New England on the money line. You have to choose one over the other. And Costas was the only guy to take New England on the money line. Personally, for me, I was 1-1 plus 7. I had Cowboys on the money line, but I had the Jets plus the points that didn't cover. So I'm 1-1 at plus 7. So, it's really just about hitting that big money line dog to rise you up in the standings.
Exactly. And a shout out to the top 5 in that. Costa Milana at 2-2. Again, Big J 3-1. KB Hirsch rounding up third, Tanko at number 4, and Health and Joy rounding out the top 5. Now, like I said before with this, Health Joy, he's number 5, but he actually went 1-3.
Wow.
1 win, 3 losses, but because of picking those dogs at those prices, he's actually broke the top 5, which is pretty wild. So I'll be anxious to see how this contest plays out in future weeks for sure. Sammy, how's the other NFL contest coming along?
Yeah, I mean, it's NFL special. I mean, you got 2 contests going on right now. You got a pick 7 for bookmaker and a pick 7 for BMR for the year-long thread. In reference to the bookmaker one, you got Pornhub Casino that went 7-0 plus 28, 28 points. And then you had 3 guys at 6-1, J.R. Grum, Louisville Kid, Pie Mike at 27. I don't know. I should probably let Donnie talk about the BMR season-long contest because Donnie sitting there at 26
Yes,
points.
he is. Yes, he
Week
is.
1. Donnie's tied with Pie Mike and Red the Tiger. You got R.W.D. Baco at 27 points. And La Penti, shout out, the only guy that went 7-0, 28 points. Personally, for me, I went 3-4 week 1, but I'm sitting there with 14 points. So I did hit my 7 and I hit my 5. So it's one of those scenarios where I went 3-4, but I hit 2 of my bigger plays. So even though
That makes up for it.
points,
Exactly.
I'm not sitting there with 5 points. So, all it takes is a couple 6-1 weeks, but you got to make sure that you're hitting your confidence peaks. But great job to Donnie to start off.
Yes, very nice, Donnie. Congratulations. Hopefully keep the momentum going here into week number 2. And guys, you want an extra free $20? We're still doing our
Still in.
Refer a Friend program for $20 until the 20th of September for the 20K season pick'em. So guys, make sure that you go ahead and take advantage of that. Click on the thread in betting contest. You can refer a friend to the 20K pick'em contest up until the 20th of this month and get your hands on $20. But Donnie, let's move over to the diamond. How's baseball looking so far this afternoon, and what do you got this evening for us?
Looking decent tonight overall. Still waiting on the Philadelphia Phillies game. Sort of a mixed mosh lineup against Tampa Bay tonight. Kyle Schwarber was scratched late, but we do have some interesting doings. And if you're willing to lay some money here in the month of September, I think that can work. And of course, we always like to take plus money. And I got a couple plus money wagers I give out in the second here. Atlanta and Washington. Early this morning when I liked this wager, the Atlanta Braves were a minus 168 price. You know where they sit now? Mostly around 190 or higher going up against Washington. You saw last night the Atlanta Braves smashed Washington, even though Reynaldo Lopez left after 1 inning. It didn't matter. 12-0 shutout. And I think, obviously, I don't know if it's going to be 12-0 again tonight, but I think another easy winner. Max Fried's on the mound. I would probably still lay in that 180 range. It's expensive, but again, if it's the right side of it here, what's the juice matter if you're going to win? Game number 2. I know Sammy's not going to like this one. I don't know what happened last night to the New York Yankees. Got shut out, barely even. They didn't even have, by a matter of fact, a runner in scoring position all night last night. And today, Luis Gil takes the mound. He's about a minus 155 price. I like Kansas City tonight. I think that's a better pitcher on the mound, and I'll take the plus 130 price. Outside chance Kansas City still can make it into the wild card position, but nonetheless, a huge game for the Yankees, but I'll take the number at plus 130. Game number 3, Oakland and Houston. It's a monster price here for the Astros. Minus 230, minus 250, depending on where you're shopping at. We're not taking that side or even the total. There's 2 RBI props that I do like in this baseball game, and that's going to be Alex Bregman and Yainer Diaz. Bregman is a plus 150 to get an RBI. Diaz bats right behind him at a plus 155. I believe at least one, if not both of those guys, does get an RBI. But the best thing about taking plus money, you just need a split and you take home that free money. If you get a 2-0 night, it could be big. Houston should win easy, and that's Bregman and Diaz to get an RBI tonight, gentlemen.
All righty, awesome. Thank you, Donnie. Sammy, what do you got on the diamond for us this afternoon?
Yeah, first off, let's do more contests. That's what we do here at BMR.
Yep.
We've been spending 10 minutes on contests.
JD's contest. Let's dive into it.
Well, first we got Cover the League. So last week we finally had a winner because the White Sox won a game last week, which finally covered the league.
Wow.
There was a 3-way tie. Seaborn EQ to the nines and diggity daggity do. They split $250. Shout out to Tanko. Thank you for running that contest with your personal money. But that was a fun contest. You know, you all had to pick winners. I had 2 teams away, which one of them being the White Sox. They finally won it. I think Seaborn EQ was definitely the top guy, but it took so long for the White Sox to win that other guys caught up. But shout out to them. They each won about $83 a piece. In reference to JDS contest, it is hot. You know, it's really down to 2 people, Martin Hop and Sunshine 11. They've both qualified with 104 and 106 plays, it's 125 plays max. So it is now strategy time. Sunshine is a 4-unit lead over Martin Hop.
Wow.
I do see Sunshine still making plays. I'm going to try and keep my personal strategy away from it, but let them do what they want to do. They still have 20 games to play. They still have 3 weeks to go in the season. So it's going to be fun to come down to there. Shout out JDS putting $2,000 of his personal money.
Thank you, JDS. It's very nice of you.
I'm so thankful for this contest to be over because, man, it's grueling every day to be grading it. It's pretty fun this time of the year because there's only like 9 people that are play per day. So it's like 5 minutes to grade, but man, at the beginning of the season, it took me like 30 minutes a day to grade it. In reference to what I like personally tonight, a couple small prices. I like Boston over Baltimore at home, and I like the Cardinals over the Reds at home.
All righty, awesome. Thank you, Sammy, for that. Let's jump into it before we get on with pros. Donnie, let's talk a little college football.
Yeah.
How was your week 2, and what do you got coming up for week number 3?
It was good, enjoyable. And again, watching NIU beat Notre Dame, always a good time in my household here. We are actively rooting against Penn State and Notre Dame in this household. And last week, Penn State also almost got taken to the wire by a MAC team. But this week, 2 noon games are like a kickoff. Alabama and Wisconsin, that total sits at 50.5 points. I do think that does go over, but that's not really the focus of my play. Alabama is favored by 16 across the board. I think they can go on the road and beat Wisconsin by 16. But my favorite bet is Milroe, the quarterback of the Alabama Crimson Tide, to go over 1.5 touchdown passes at a minus 120 price. And then another game at noon, Memphis and Florida State. You take a look at that total at 52. I like that to the over. An interesting line here. Florida State a 6.5 point favorite after dropping both of their games in ACC play to start the season. They need a victory in this game. I'm not saying they're going to crush Memphis. I do think they win, but I think we get points on both sides here. I think DJ Uiagalelei finally wakes up and that offense moves the football. I like the over 52 in that game.
All righty, thank you, Donnie. Sammy, college football, what do you got?
Yeah, so right now I'm 3-4 on the season in college. I'm definitely more of a volume NFL better than college,
Right.
but I'm going to dabble a little bit in college. We'll start off with Friday. You need some Friday night action. I like Arizona +7 on the road at Kansas State to at least keep it within a touchdown. And then looking into Saturday, I like Alabama -16.5 over Wisconsin. I think Purdue at home +10 to Notre Dame, who got embarrassed, lost at home as a 30-point favorite. Notre Dame should bounce back, but Purdue, should be able to keep it within that 10 points and cover. And then Georgia -24. I don't love huge spreads, but college is notorious for it. But Georgia's been steamrolling their opponents, and I don't think they're stopping them right now. So Georgia -24 over Kentucky. So 4 picks for this weekend.
All righty, thank you, Sammy. And Sammy, while I still got you here, before we dive into NFL week number 2 and go over our 7 picks, I want to get your take on this Dak Prescott $240 million extension here. 4 years, $240 million. That's a hell of a lot of money. What do you think?
Yeah, pros and cons. Obviously, I'm a Dallas fan, so I'm happy in the sense of Dak got paid, CeeDee Lamb got paid. So in reference to, they got their 2 superstars, they got them locked in for the next 4 years. Now, the contract, it just is what it is. Unfortunately, it's the going rate for quarterbacks right now, $60 million. In a few years, we're talking $80, $90, $100 million for. If you're a teenager right now, if you're 15, 14, 15 years old, and you're going to be in the league in 8, 9 years, man, you're looking at $100 million payout. It's just unbelievable. He's getting like $220 million guaranteed. Dak stats last year were MVP caliber over Lamar Jackson. It's just Lamar was the number 1 seed in the AFC. I love Dak as a regular season quarterback.
When it came to the playoffs.
Exactly. However, Lamar Jackson's the same way, right? He can't win the playoffs either. So he's getting the money that he should be getting, because if Dallas didn't pay him, any other team is going to be willing to pay him. There's 8 teams right now that are so bad they are desperate for a quarterback, and Dak would be that guy. So yes, they are setting themselves up for the next 4 years. They got CeeDee Lamb, they got Dak, but goddamn, can we win some playoff games? Can we get to the conference finals? I'm not even talking Super Bowl. We got to get to the NFC Championship game to even talk about the Super Bowl. So come on, one time. This is our year. We're in week 2. Obviously, we had a great week 1. So I am happy, but you got to get to that next level.
Exactly, 100%. Donnie, what's your take on this? $240 million, 4 years. What do you think?
Oh, it's a lot of money, but I think
It is
Sammy
a
hit the
hell of
nail
a
on the
lot
head,
of
and I've
money.
been talking about this all week since it's happened. Like, Dak Prescott is not overpaid. This is the going rate for a very good quarterback that's up for a salary adjustment. He was going to get paid this year or he's going to get paid next year. That's why there was no rush from Dak's side saying, I can't be franchise tagged. If I hit the open market, my goodness, how much is that going to be? But there is something to be said about the biggest brand in the world being the Dallas Cowboys, and you're the quarterback there. So even if you took a slight discount, if that seems crazy, as opposed to hitting the open market, you'd be paid in spades down the line, because all those Dallas quarterbacks, when they're good and they retire, they go to the press, they go into like the booth, they do whatever they want and print money at that point. So I do think it's a worthwhile thing. The only problem I have with this is, and yes, they should have paid CeeDee Lamb, and he should be one of the highest wide receivers in the game because he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. I just wish, if I was a Dallas fan, we did this in March, because then you could have readjusted those contracts, had tons of money in free agency, brought in 2 or 3 more great players. So as Jerry Jones says, I'm all in this year. You could have actually been all in, and you could have had those players and added even more players to the fold. So as an Eagles fan, I like the fact that they weren't able to add more players into the fold. But yes, some people say, Dak, this and that. That's the going rate. Wait till you see next year if the 49ers, let's just say, win a playoff game and get knocked out in the NFC Championship game, and Brock Purdy gets $61 million a year, and you're like, wow, how about that? No, it's just the going rate for the quarterback that's next in line to get that money, pushing that number higher and higher and higher. It's just what it is.
Thank you, Donnie. And speaking of announcing, since you brought it up, players transitioning into announcing, let's talk Tom Brady a little bit for a second, Sammy.
Mm.
I caught highlights of it. I personally think that it's just like anything else. It's his debut announcing. He's going to take a while to form a rhythm, just like anybody else. When I did my first video 18, 19 years ago, probably, I wasn't as good as I am today. Not patting my own back, but just saying. So, I think it's going to take a little bit for Tom to find his groove. But the transition from player to announcer, I'm sure there's a huge step involved. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, so for me, the way my room is set up, or my living room, I have one TV in one corner, one TV in another corner. So I have Red Zone as my main audio, and then my second TV has a game on. So for
Right.
me, I had the Cowboys game on, but the audio was pretty much muted. So the only audio would be when Red Zone kicked in and turned on the Cowboys game. So I did catch a little bit of it, but I do remember even Scott Hansen was saying, Aubrey's going for a 71-yard field goal. Brady, have a little bit more energy, have some more excitement. I think what the problem with Brady is right now is because he's so fresh of leaving, he's literally watching the game. He's
Yeah.
watching it from the booth and saying, wow, I can see everything. I can see the play develop. I can see what the quarterback's thinking, what the receiver's thinking, what the cornerback's thinking. So
He's
he's
thinking
seeing it
more
as a
along the
fan.
lines of still being a quarterback than he is an announcer.
I think he's seeing it as a fan and just forgetting just to talk. I think he's just forgetting just to say what he's seeing. So he's watching it and he's excited. Now just talk as you're watching. So like you said, Bobby, everyone gets better as they do it more often. So he's going to get better, but I think he's watching it as a fan and just now has to talk as he's watching.
Donnie, what do you think?
I think it's pretty incredible watching it play out, because number one, he got paid a ton of money to go into the booth. But I always say this, like, you only recognize like the bad announcing teams. Like, as long as you have a decent announcer, I don't care what the name is or who it is, and nobody is tuning into the Cowboys game. Like Sammy being a Cowboys fan, I'm not going to watch that unless we have like Tom Brady as the color guy in this game. Like, no, you're going to watch the game regardless. Has no impact on me. But I do laugh at this because sometimes I like to hate on things more than most people. But Brady will get better. But at the same time, what did you want to expect in the booth? Like, what was Tom Brady going to do for you that made you go, oh my God, he's the greatest announcer we've ever heard in our life? Like, it's not the hardest job in the world. And saying, you're right. Hey, look, it's a pass. It's a catch. Oh, what a great catch there. That's a really long field goal. Hey, I remember when I played here, that linebacker blitz would come. I'd dump it out to the running back. But I don't know what the expectations was supposed to be for Tom Brady, as if he was
Right.
supposed to reinvent the wheel. He's just adding to a football game here. It's not that big of a deal.
I mean, but to your point, Donnie, there are some great announcers out there.
Romo!
Look at Vince Scully, look at John Sterling. I mean, there's definitely there are names that pop out. Harry Callis. There's names that pop out right away at you that really over the years have been amazing, in my
John
opinion.
Madden. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, there's something to be said about that, because he will grow on it and you'll know greatness. Like, honestly, like, by far, like, I love Troy. Troy Aikman's the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Same thing with Tony Romo. But I think Troy Aikman is the best in the business. And I never say, like, I can't watch this game. all those years that Aikman beat all my Eagles. Like, no, he's really good, and that's what we're accept. But just a high bar. It wasn't as if it was like a trial. Like, we're going to put Tom Brady in the booth week number 1 and week number 2. Let's see how it goes. They paid him like $300 million as if he's the best announcer in the history of the game right off of the bat. So it's a pretty big leap by Fox. He'll get better. But again, it's just background to me. Just don't be an embarrassment when you call the game. And I'm okay with it, to be honest. I don't care who it is.
Exactly.
Donnie's right on that too. I'll watch tennis and I'll mute the tennis because the announcers are horrible.
Right.
Like, I just want to watch the tennis. The announcers, I don't really care. I can watch tennis without it. I can listen to music. I mean, I want to listen to the announcers, but if they stink like McEnroe, like they're so annoying sometimes watching tennis, I'll just turn them off and just watch the tennis and just listen to something else.
And I know guys that will watch the game and listen to the radio announcers versus the television guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially for baseball, like if I did like the Amazon Prime, when you listen to the home announcers, they're the home announcers. So they're going to give you some bias. If they think the ref made a bad call, they're going to say it. If they think the player stinks, they're going to say it. They don't have to be, neutral. They can tell you how they feel.
Exactly. Sammy, speaking of how you feel on things, let's jump into it. Christian McCaffrey, out week number 1. San Francisco supposedly knew on Friday, didn't tell the NFL until late Monday. Why?
You know what? I saw the interview after the game, but there's been no coverage of that after the fact. So there's no sanctions, there's no media, there's no reports. So I'm not really sure. It does suck for anyone that drafted him in fantasy football. I'm happy that I didn't draft him. I didn't get the number 1 pick. So I'm good in the fantasy aspect of it. But, the backup running, I mean, let's talk about the Jets' run defense was horrific. And let's talk about the San Fran O-line was amazing. Now, let's sort it this way. Is McCaffrey that good or is the O-line that good? Because they had an undrafted rookie running back run for 6 yards a carry, which then also says where the value is in a running back. If McCaffrey is your number 1 universal running back and an undrafted rookie lit up the Jets defense, what does that say for the value of a running back?
Right, exactly. But Sammy, since we jumped into it a little bit, let's talk about your last week in the NFL. How was it?
Yeah, so last week, like I said, I scored 14 points. I went 3-4 on my pick 7, but I won on my confidence picks. So this week, my number 7 is Washington -2.5 over the Giants. The Giants stink. I've said that last year. I've said it every week this year. And I'm not saying that Washington is that much better, but the Giants.
They're just better than the Giants.
I put a $500 future on under 5.5 wins for the Giants this year. I literally have them at 3 to 4 wins. And I think that Washington at 2.5, which again is a nice hook number, I take them for my 7 pick. Number 6, I like Kansas City over Cincinnati. Kansas City rolled week number 1, and Cincinnati looked horrible. Joe Burrow didn't look great. Jamar Chase was okay, and T. Higgins didn't play. And that offense struggled, and they lost. Now, you can say that they fumbled the ball at the half-yard line, but that's part of football. So they could have had another touchdown. It's a whole momentum change. But Kansas City, they should have no problem going in and winning by a touchdown over Cincinnati. Next pick, I like Houston -6.5 over the Bears. Now, you can say the Bears won week 1, but they scored no offensive touchdowns. They had a defensive touchdown. They had a punt return touchdown. And I love that Houston offense. They did win by 2 points over Indianapolis. They could have won by 9 points. Richardson had a 4th and goal scramble just to cut it within that 2 points. But I like Houston to win by a touchdown at home over the Bears. I like Seattle 3.5 over New England. Now, Seattle is on the road, and New England, they had that upset win over Cincinnati on the road. Now they're at home. This is for me. Is New England for real, or are they a pretender? So I'm going to go with Seattle and say New England beat me twice in that sense. The next pick for me at number 3, I like Tampa Bay +6.5 against Detroit. Detroit did win Sunday Night Football. They won by a touchdown. And then we could always talk about overtime. It's overtime in 2024, and both teams still don't potentially get the ball. They got to change that rule. I know it's regular season, but both teams should get the ball. But I like Tampa Bay. That offense was on fire. Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, great wide receiver combo. I think Detroit wins, but Tampa Bay should keep it close. Thursday night football, I like Miami at home against the Bills. I think a little bit of that Tyreek Hill incident last week maybe stirred that offense to start off slow. I think Jacksonville had a really bad game plan in the second half, but Tyreek is Tyreek. He broke out that 80-yard wide receiver, touchdown run or, touchdown catch and run. I think Bills started off slow last week, but they beat an Arizona Arizona team that Kyler Murray just scrambles. Why didn't he throw the ball to Marvin Harrison? He had one attempt. If Kyler Murray doesn't get his first read, he's just scrambling and he can't run all day. And that's what Buffalo did in the second half. They contained Kyler and he couldn't do anything. Well, Miami has a better offense and there's more weapons that they have to account for other than just Tua. So I do like Miami to win Thursday night football. And then the last pick for me is the Vikings plus 5.5 home to San Fran. San Fran on a short week. Christian McCaffrey most likely not paying. We'll see what happens with the backup running back, that rookie. But I think the Vikings can potentially maybe even backdoor cover, maybe keep it close. That's my one confidence, but that's where I'm looking at on Wednesday, and then we'll always adjust on Sunday.
Thank you, Sammy, and good luck with those. Donnie, let's jump over to you. How was your week number 1 in football, and what do you got for week number 2?
Good. I was actually really close to a sweep last week, 6-1 in the contest. The game I lost was Houston on the hook. I had a -2.5. They won by 2 points. So that key at the end of the game, which is a shame. Shane Steichen made that decision. If anybody watched, they were down 9 points with about, I don't know, maybe a little bit over 2 minutes to go. It was 4th down and goal from about the 3 or 4 yard line, I believe. And you're supposed to probably kick the field goal to extend the game. He went for the touchdown and got him. If they just kicked that field goal, I would have won a perfect 7-0. But hey, 6-1, can never be upset with that. We'll see if we can keep moving. I don't have the confidence picks in just yet, but I do have 7 games that are on my radar. Kansas City, I'm going to take them and lay the 5.5 points at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know what's going to go on with Jamar Chase. He's not signed yet. T. Higgins has a hamstring injury. He probably won't play this week. If he does, he'll be limited. But at the same time, you basically had Kansas City coming off like a full week bye, taking off Cincinnati. And watching that Cincinnati game, they have no explosive plays whatsoever. They're not going to be able to beat Kansas City. I'm going to take Kansas City and lay the 5.5. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll take them again on the road, -2.5 in Denver. Bo Nix threw like 50 times in that game for like 100 yards. You look at last week, the Atlanta offense, which I do like, was completely stymied by the Pittsburgh Steelers. T.J. Watt was crushing the pocket every single play. You're going to get Justin Fields to start again. They probably don't even have to score a touchdown again this weekend, and they probably can still get the cover. I'll lay the 2.5 points. I'm going to take the New York Jets -4.5 over the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis had one job last week, up 17-0. Don't do anything stupid, and he did things multiple times and really stupid, which included one of the worst pick sixes you're ever going to see to blow that football game. I think the Jets will be back in gear. I think Aaron Rodgers has a solid game, and they don't have to score that many points because I don't think Will Levis is that great of a quarterback. If the Jets can get to 20 points, they'll be able to cover that 4.5. I'm also going to take Seattle on the road against New England. I'll lay the 3.5 points. New England is basically a high school football team, the way they play. Really impressed last week with them. Gerard Mayo was very smart in what he did. Let's hand the football off. We know Cincinnati's not explosive, and let's wait them out, and they were able to do that. You're not going to be able to have that game plan against teams that can actually score points, so I do think Seattle will be able to come into New England and win by at least 4 points. Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm laying the 3.5 over Cleveland. Cleveland is an absolute abomination. If you saw the game last week with the Jaguars, they were up 17-7 late in that third quarter, and Travis Etienne fumbles going into the end zone, and as Sammy pointed out, just a few minutes or moments, I should say, later, Tyreek Hill goes for an 80-yard touchdown, completely flips that momentum. I think Jacksonville bounces back. I know Sammy likes Minnesota. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go San Francisco again. This team is just built for it right now. And you're telling me Christian McCaffrey probably won't play this week, but Jordan Mason is going to be your starting running back the way he looked last weekend. I think they'll be able to handle their business. I liked what Minnesota did, but it was the New York Giants. You're going to get a completely different animal in town, and I'm willing to lay it with San Francisco. And also, I don't know if this is going to be one of those plays because we do make changes here. I actually have the Giants getting 2.5 points against Washington because you got the rookie quarterback versus Daniel Jones, the battle of who's going to throw that interception first. I wish that number was 3 or 3.5 because I would like the Giants. I have it on my board right now, but that's probably a one confidence play right now. But I thought it was interesting to start talking about that. So Sammy's on Washington. I'm on the Giants early in the week. We'll see if that play sticks.
All righty, awesome. Thank you, Donnie, and best of luck with all the action this upcoming weekend. Speaking of action, guys, poker action is back. I'm sure you both saw my thread. We are back, season number 7 of BMR Baller Coins poker.
Mm.
So, guys, a little bit different this upcoming season. There's going to be no registration codes given out. Just go ahead and click on the link. Feel free to register yourself. And as I mentioned in the thread, guys, please make sure you try to use your BMR Forum username so you do get paid those baller coins if you win, and you do get those Tournament of Champion ticket entries. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments on the poker, normally I'm running them on Sundays. If you guys want to change it, you have any questions, concerns, feel free to shoot me a message, comment in my poker thread. I'm pretty flexible. I'm always willing to move things around for the benefit of our wonderful poker community. But Sammy, let's finish up with Eliminator. How's it been?
Yeah, so week one Eliminator is the toughest week, and most people had the Bengals. So luckily for me,
Yes.
I have 2 entries, and I already lost one with the Bengals. So for my 200, I have 294 entries, so it's just under $15,000 prize pool. 108 have already been eliminated. 99 of them had the Bengals. So, week one, it's always a mess, and then we go on. This week is quote unquote easier because there's 8 teams that are favored by 6 or more. So now it's a strategy of, well, one, who's going to win, and who do you want to save for future weeks? Now, one of my eliminator strategies is to never take a road team and try to avoid divisional matchups. And then based on that, we're only down to about 5 or 6 of them. For me, I'm going with the Eagles on Monday night over the Falcons for my personal eliminator pick. So go Eagles.
All righty, awesome. And it looks like Mr. Donnie Rightside might have had some technical difficulties as he jumped off here. But real quick, Sammy, I don't know if you saw, and I made a post about this. In one of the threads yesterday, you know, um, Dougie Tushy, he entered a 50K survival pool, $1,000 buy-in, and it looking like there's only 13 entries. You put up $1,000 to survivor pool, you have a chance to a 1 in 13, maybe 1 in 14 shot at 50K. Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking. Like for me, I'm not putting $1,000 up, but $1,000 in the grand scheme of
There
big
must be a
gamblers.
big. There's got to be a big overlay in that contest with only 13 or 14 guys.
Yeah, something's got to be wrong there or something. Because I mean, again, $1,000 is a lot, but not a lot for big time bettors. And Doug
Exactly.
is obviously a big
Exactly.
time bettor.
Yes, he
He's
is.
very, he shows everything.
Shout out to Dougie.
But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. 1 out of
Yeah.
13 for 50 grand rather than 1
Yep.
out of 50, especially the fact that
Exactly.
the sports book essentially has to eat $37,000
Yep.
for this contest. So I don't know if they dropped the ball, if they threw it down late, if it's a second chance contest, but 13 entries out of 50, so like they messed up.
It is a second chance. It's a second chance survivor pool.
Gotcha. So then maybe they're waiting on more entries to fill
That's what
this
I'm
week
thinking.
then, because
That's
maybe
what
he
I'm
posted
thinking.
it on Tuesday and now he's waiting up until Sunday and then there'll be more entries in there. But I'd be shocked if a sports book is just going to lose $37,000 for these other 13 people.
Exactly. Well, we will wait and see what happens, and good luck to you there, Dougie, in that contest. But as always, good luck on this weekend's action, guys. If you have any comments, concerns, questions about our wonderful lobby show, please feel free and shoot them down below. Send me a message, and I will definitely get that going. But you guys have a wonderful week, and we will see you guys on the forum.
See ya.